hello, 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 hi, I am Spantopia Rose, but you can call me Span. How are you, how are you, how are you? Just gonna change my glasses real quick, real quick, real quick. Okay. Shoop, 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 shoop. Okay. So, the book that I'll be reading today, the book we will be reading is called T-U at the Altar. T-U at the Altar, instead of C-U at the Altar. And it is T-T-E-A-Y-O-U-A-T the H-E Altar A-L-T-A-R-T-U at the Altar, and that's by Rebecca Thorne, and we will be starting book three of the Tomes and Tea series. It's a cozy fantasy stocked with secrets. So, I will be reading that now. To You at the Altar by Rebecca Thorne. The other books in this series are Can't Spell Treason Without Tea and A Pirate's Life for Tea. Look, there's a map. It even has a map. Alright, let's start at the prologue. That was prologue, Canthe. That was a scuffle as Gad ripped along the wooden floor and booked them. They rolled over, blinking blurrily from their bed. Her face was soft, buried in her pillow, which squinted into the darkness. Slid someone in. If he was asleep, but if I thought should be alarmed, the rest of her resoundingly answered. Sounds like we're in her center like this. It's probably fine. Let me move a tad closer for the sounds. It's probably fine. That was okay. Let's start again. Where is it? It's probably fine. My partner did indeed evidently the old man was standing beside the bed, limping up Chianti, but he was utterly still. Like a she pressed her lip out. She pressed a bit out with the lip and then I'm letting her look was sleeping there with the log. She put it up right her big one eyes quite together and tried to know that she hadn't seen him. She yawned loudly, tugging on a comfy sweater and crocheted by the puppy, but it was a slightly misshapen, but the dye colors were autumnal, and she did the double warming her arm and later than them to mum gets her at last. He said what it felt like it had been years, and considering all that had happened. In the meantime, the dragon eggs hatching fear assumed in this bottom thing at the member. Thanks, you know that happened in the meantime. Fear assuming the spot of the kids member and Kathy and Raina settled. Making in the main and leave Kathy and a shouldn't be surprised at all. Puppy's sweater was a persistent reminder of their friends across the realm. None was there to Kathy supposed that they could eat west and find a solace with them, or maybe even with Drex. Locke is always a third love, and his little way to question his dog denied show sure absolutely. Kathy and thinking all on her and since he called it her and Harriet wasn't losing better, you would have been make you a cup of tea. Raina stepped over her purse and clicked into her partner's lips, and she just vaguely the sweet somehow, which was not very Kathy. Probably ran something strong if you please. I feel I have a need and whether way she left the room, and when Kathy emerged to be members that Raina largely could have the fire with her been long in the roaring and lamp again. His mind looked at the ground, but his once quiet moment, and Kathy thought that the end of his Raina's statement wouldn't bother with a good reason. Raina wouldn't bother with a good reason. Raina looked at her, drumming her fingers in the chair's armrest. She spoke louder, keeping on no secret from Kathy. It depends on who ordered this visit to you or of your own accord, but I find that hard to believe. Of course you do. Look, message as far as let me put your mind at ease a bit. Air isn't that correct? Raina's stiffened is most slowly and is emotionally imperceptible. Emotionally imperceptible. Putting both energies, the ripples play there isn't another air. It's a method those think that it was still anything. Raina wasn't alone. That could run everything. Raina was always being careful. Now the shoulder slumped as he pitched the particular thank you to her, but submitted to Locke exactly asking that question. She asked him, wanting people to take a reason. How long have you known? You're very careful. Your research about Nadia and Via is significantly less certain. Locke leaned forward, steepling his fingers. Locke leaned forward to the that name is the Tesla and Queen Aaron's clicking to daughter important secrets he shredded in protective measures. Because I know exactly why she's I think it's time we use her. Kathy's not in. She sounded dry and humorless as she stroked the small felt under Raina's cup. Wanting that and gave him mother precisely. Locke's gaze was steady, but he wasn't watching Kathy. No, Raina was his prize. Kathy didn't like it. Raina and Amanda didn't seem to mind. In fact, she pressed her lips together, considering it. There'd always been an unspoken question about this. Yes, Raina and Theo had been researching the missing but none of them had openly admitted what they do when they found her. Kathy's mind as research was to access potential outliers. They hadn't understand, Raina said. It was such an obvious lie that Kathy almost laughed. Raina understood everything. Even Kathy could read the subtext in his conversation, but it was a brilliant move. It had forced Locke to say it out loud. I pitched the idea first, even though Raina read that ability until the very end. Sneaky Locke knew how to do it. It must spread across the spy master's face in the flickering. I saw Mr. Valina, I really for excellence. These Raina's come to an end. I want to use Tesla and with a third Talani, and I need to help to do it. By this time, Kathy breathed out the reasons, but silky smooth out her eyes flashed. Locke leaned back into his chair. It is. So, Raina, my fate, and the queen of Phillips in your hands. We open me, Kathy. I thought that the books of Rudy. And Locke and the other Raina. The spy master barely glanced at it. Raina took the mug with a reverence, letting her woman hand in hand, sending their little smiles of money again through first on the armrest of her side, sipping from her Raina mug. Kathy wanted to scream yes, stone and stars, yes, let's get that. But that last confidence with the Talani had proved just how much of their friends were at risk, and if they found every Quindam citizen, they could be labelled traded to the ground and killed. It's clipped and melted, pounding Raina near the 50. Some people think of that when steeping tea leaves, adding time makes taste stronger. I also believed that when I was younger. Locke sounded carefully, considering what he did yesterday. He drew a slow breath, inhaling the steam from his mug. Now I know that the wine ages well and refines its taste, but tea right now picked up his statement seamlessly too long and it gets bitter. I'm steaming in her on then otherwise good cup. Now she paused, her light brown eyes looking upwards. It is possible that her essentially has a similar problem. More than possible, I'd say. Locke smirked and Raina leaned forward and took it. Her throat looking at this much. She leaned against the arm just like I guess we have some things to plan. Raina, do some things that under the roof of the newly lived homes that really makes you just come complicated the roof, the water roof, the clubs, but when they living in there and they're doing it daily. But Raina flinched anyway. The hot water from the copper's kettle and shield flashed into the polished wooden counter, missing the mug and burning the lack of gosh, it's windy. Hard at the back of her hand, she hissed, pressing out onto the angry red splotching where his stoned skin. Meanwhile, the dust mist after settling on the wide leaves of themselves of books and building of and several books covered their mugs of tea, glancing at the ceiling in exasperation. The young couple nestled in the comfy armchairs near the fireplace, trying to look at Raina. Should we be worried? One asked. Of course not. Raina dripped a ragged long cold water, racing one against the mud bird. Mentally she counted to 3, 2, 1. And you heard that again. They slammed out of the back storage room, where she was supposed to be blending new tasties that they needed for all the guests who would be showing up for their wedding. A wedding that was happening 6 days from now. God's planning our wedding was so frustrated with Candy, but his black foot fled in his hole. Now, she didn't often feel frustrated with Candy, but his black foot fled in his hole. They came back, maybe the following moment, got the hedges left bottom again. They danced in a circle, squinting at the ceiling dark slide, a slide of tiny sleigh light had been, and he struck at the magic would be sparkling into splashing, flashing air of the fluid was cute. Like flies and was cute. Randall loved the Candy, got excited about the dragons, but part of his danger before bring it whispered, "Is there time for this?" The bookshelves got slid, the teenage little band groaned. No, you promised you weren't doing this again. Above them, the sound of scrabbling talons cut in the room. Tiles, their entire barn seemed to groan, revolving from the weight of the sheer act of the gods. So maybe it was an act of the stone of seeing, or maybe the watchers didn't want to disappoint Cal. The major was currently helping under the boats like there was a fight to catch outside, and she didn't want to miss out again. These bands, the balance shifted, and she then crashed into the wall. A few of their patrons in order to impact their days right now with it at the copper kettle, absently popping this spilled water with the cleaning rag, but the burns, pains had already faded. Decay blaze costly is right. We talked about this. I'm just going to look at the baby dragons. Candy said, yanking the other boot. There was a far more graceful, mostly because she had dedicated of her brace shoulder against the wall. I thought the dragon man, you know, just saying. I asked, and Anna didn't smile, crossing her face. It was hard to stay mad at her, but long-handled dragon maybe, but baby dragon magic doesn't count. It's like Anthe was training deep the world, just like that, settling feeling for rough vision where you think you should be seasick, but you wanted. They're so cute. Raina sighed, cute or not, last time you stopped by one and showed interest in your moonstone, and when you let it get a close look, it stole your moonstone, and you took this half a day chasing it down. Some things you shouldn't be visited, some things saying shouldn't be said fast. Candy said, unconsciously got the bandit in her neck. She's still fucking necessary bridge between Raina's own magic necklace and allowing them to communicate for long distances, but there was a big bitterness now gentle was the concept of many dragons understood apparently another thump that on the roof, case in point. Candy surged forward, but Raina smoothly cut her off. Sometimes Candy's brain got puzzled, completely distracted, sometimes Raina tried to keep it neutral, but her stress leaked in. Kate, please listen to me, the wedding is in 1 week, our friends are working hard doing chores, so everyone remembers the downsides. She drew in a deep breath, feeding her heart her loose low until she finally offered her undivided attention, gazing at her partner. Now, if the Arcanor accidentally starts a war with the dragons, we'll have a difficult time cutting the cake. I forgot that big cake. Raina squeezed her arms and rolled back behind the counter. I can't hang on. Snored, sorting the teas too. I can't take on sorting teas too, love. Please don't have that on my load. Never again. This while pressing her hand to her heart. I laid it down and then I'll make you a cup of tea to unwind tonight. You seem stressed. I wonder why, Raina drawled, but inside she was cringing. Everything they had discussed with Locke all those weeks ago was all coming to her at the wedding, which meant everything needed to be perfect. She couldn't take any more distractions. I love you, Raina. The dragons again, frustration melted away, and Raina was slightly shorter than Gayanthe. Her was still deep, but her preferred part of it. Gayanthe strong grip felt like a grin the stomach hair, but until wanted to stay off the roof. She's sitting in a back step, Raina pulled away, and even a name I completed the mark, and then flipped off into the cylinder measures. I didn't know if steep apologies for the delay, Miss Foster, picture to remember, and not leave one of the body was waved, and nose buried in a raunchy book. Gayanthe stole another kiss, then waited to be right back. If anything, I'll make sure they don't cave the place in. You don't need to be that. You knew that right now either. But then Raina sort of thought to respond. Gayanthe was gone. It wasn't a graceful exit. The moment she stepped outside, she slammed into the middle. The man's friend danced around the Gayanthe, placing a bind over a cloth that had got a bed to have covered just faintly laying against Matilda's dragons. How do you know how long it took us to bake these cookies? Matilda shifted to the place against neck. Gayanthe's shoulder with the other. The mage grinned sheepishly, but Matilda was already slipping inside, utterly ignoring the dragons on the road. Your fiancé with this. Matilda was Tawny's midwife, the closest thing to a medical professional in the small town. She was also one of the first acquaintances with Gayanthe Aurelia had made when they arrived. She strode through the bookshop as if she owned the place, and her ogre skin flushed, her eyes alight. As a married woman, nothing excited Matilda more than the thought of somebody else's wedding. Raina wished she had that energy, and nothing but put out Raina. And then Subaru and a sort of feathery conscience to coordinate security on the trip. Swallowing a sigh, Raina moved to the tea bag, mixed in some money, and dropped it off at Miss Foster's table. The old woman badly noticed as she flipped to a new page. Follow me, Matilda. My master, the bookshop, and further storage room in the privacy had afforded. Lovely one of those cookie tastings. Then Raina forced a smile and said, "Costly, you've got the shop, of course, Miss Raina." The boy popped up as he fumbled with the book, and he said, "Sometimes not to say hello." Nothing plays Costly more than showing he was in touch with business. Luckily, in place of a business, luckily he was as reliable as he was eager. Raina stepped up to the door and gently crossed the door between herself. Amazing Matilda, she couldn't stop herself from slumping down against the door. Well, we have a problem. The midwife cut straight. Her forehead. We always do. What's the issue now? If it's still the florist, Gayanthe will be the best one to. It's another florist. Matilda cleared the space for a plate of cooking. The search which stood unsorted to teas. And the married and the table room center with the maid plans of health left abandoned. In short, it was chaos, but that was how Gayanthe preferred to work. Matilda worked an eyebrow. Ah, these baby dragons interrupting something, didn't they? The problem, Matilda ran out, directed, and her brain was still swelling. Only in the wedding preparations hadn't even started in earnest, and not for the first time. Raina regretted agreeing to this entire event. It felt so unnecessary, and then again the point was to present a united front to the realm. She just had to survive the wake. Matilda ruffled in the bucket and plucked a single letter at a deeply sealed attempt to the front, and it is can't even the moneygram. No major pages, new leaf terms, indeed, horny, and there was no mention of the center. There was no doubt in Raina's mind. It sent it dresser like that. Raina ran her fingers along the locations of the Madri and Jellin. The Archon was nothing sort of the public figure renowned for her control over the realm's elemental magic, but all the mages were funneled into the Madri from Unwriting and Henry. Released into independent citizens. In theory, the mages felt as had no special connection to any country or town, and they were mediated to the realm at large and practice. And they was thinking about in favor of Shabara Leona, but most of them, like they hated Tulani and they made her into Earl of the Quindom, and they understood this explain, but simply out loud was now specifically there was an overstep on her family when Meg Raina, only one of them would make. Raina opened that letter. She shouldn't have not with Keanthi's approval, but she couldn't stop herself. The words flowed into her that she could only. And this letter challenge specifically, but that but to simply get that out, but to simply Keanthi specifically that, but to imply. And the words blurred together as she got the snippets first. She's like delighted to see you again after the gifts. And gifts to be with your wife, but the ending sequence just like to see you seeing your parents. Should have been just that bad. Matilda scuttered around the table, grinding over Raina's shoulder to see it was a dangerous position for anyone. But yeah, they Raina's instincts were to never let somebody have me behind her. Last they pull it off, but now the development took priority. Matilda hummed in confusion. Her parents all this time. You wanted me to reach a letter from her parents. Raina. Luckily, me like that. If it was a family would want to come to her wedding, why are you acting like somebody poisoned you? Drank Raina carefully, extracted herself, stepping closer to clear area of the storage room. These are not the best times with the family. She started sending letters and replying to the ones they sent, but that's different than her parents. Raina and replying, but that's different to her parents. Arriving to the birthdays later the wedding. There was also other things called tricky family relations usually were, and when Raina Jerusalem, but I honestly can't say from one camp that has been there encouraging, but I think that's the problem. It was hard for Raina to understand. Truth be told, she'd had a good relationship with her mother, and after her dad, the sentimentality had brightened any negative moments, but it didn't matter what Raina thought. It wasn't a person bringing out these children, and sometimes relationships couldn't be mended. Matilda crossed her arms and made it a bit more information because I'm not seeing the problem in my family is locked in the capital and if we visit will be killed. Sorry, my family locked in the capital and if we visit will be killed. Sorry, didn't Matilda's tone. It was like her parents would do to her. Like, I wanted Dolly. It sounds like her parents would have. Dolly and I was so lucky. I was telling I was so lucky. That egg slid through and so she pushed up the door, slumping instead of the work table. The unpacked teas, which smelled lovely individually, and a companion who knocked him up living right around. I know, but it's a bit different situations. She sorted her thoughts in trying to put Matilda into Keanthi's shoes for a Keanthi. Their expectations are stressful. They wanted to live in the grand and knock her up time and then support the pressure spread over to get takes for many letters from family she truly admired and never wanted to bail after fleeing the capital. Matilda had spent considerable time in Japan, capital of Wellia, studying all forms of medicine, and she took a job in the usually unknown Halloween married on citizenship. Her and Queen was a priority, and everyone close to Keanthi we need the major sort of anxiety. Matilda grimaced. Indeed, Raina folded that letter, tucking it with the pocket. I'll tell you. And the Amanthas, but Greg's will be arriving this afternoon at the wedding is in 6 days, and there are dragons on my roof. As if tomorrow month I was naked, that I'd have hit and allowed all the warning squish loud enough to penetrate the band's walls. Bonus is just as the dragons and branders. Raina's young griffin, I laughed, I just got them for misbehaving. Raina went to mating another swell of panic. I need you to coordinate with Sigmund and out of the town informants knew that nothing happened to Luthorny and I distributing details for everybody was accounted for. If everyone we haven't accounted for arrives intercepted them, that's a priority one. And the priority was one it's changed. A lifetime cutting a vicious queen. And Raina was excellent at shuffling priorities when new threats arose. Maybe she ducked I don't know if I can spending her right, but maybe she could react in a perfect composure through the world, but I made it left to one of her own only got wearing there and Raina, you don't need one more secret, and it was true. You don't need one more secret, and it was true, but they had too many things to do today. You couldn't tell Keanthi about this. Yes, it was selfish, but she knew about it in top shape, and it was completely in top shape, and it was completely focused on what it was to come because the good news. God knows Raina was madly hunting us all together, and all the whole things considered. Her parents were not attending the wedding, but they weren't an immediate threat, and not yet anyway. Raina forced to laugh. On the contrary, this excitement reminds me of the old days. I'll tell Keanthi when we have a moment to breathe, but God bless anything minding us soon, and to discuss logistics about the pirate fleet. You're welcome to our doorstep. On the other thing, Matilda smirked. Both absently, her hands drifted to her hair, but missing piece. I was at my sword one day. I think I need an exact play how Keanthi managed to break it during a sparring session. Matilda rolled her eyes. She's not a man for weapons and form. So their form was all wrong. Hello, there Raina had another suspicion. She wouldn't voice them out loud. Not yet. It's Dali almost done with repairing on it, but and he's swinging on a money thing back. Look, maybe I'll be ready. But it'll be ready before the wedding. But I'm sure you can survive until then without you with your jacket collection. With your steward, I can. It's just a small comfort. It makes me feel more confident. Matilda clapped her shoulder. Everybody feels more confident with sorted the rib. Take it from a blacksmith's wife. She headed for the door, but just for the back covered plate. Just back at the covered plate, there's no cookie tasting. I made the decision for you. If you don't like those, file a complaint with Janice and will respond in 9 to 12 days. I ran to roll her eyes a minute. The thing Limbs Julie noted. Good luck with Keanthi. I'm pleased and tried to write the note using Matilda's young hand and straight out the door. Easily close behind her, alone in the storage room. Raina glanced at the mess of unsorted tasty banded plate of cookies in her pocket. Things I don't seem to man or not. For those who might have convincing about what was coming, she'd redraw about that to mind everything was going to be fine. She'd make sure of it, blustering a smile on her face. Raina strolled back into the shop. The dragons prattled Kathy rested a lot and manipulating the wind to keep herself from dripping off the slanted roof and squinted against the sunlight at oars that the little dragon lunged on the rim behind the down, keeping it fly on the end. The major pages near enough to protect the baby's little dragon and clearly checked out. It was scratched like a cat lazing in the sun, which laying straight over the snow-dusted rocks, eyes glowed. Kathy's not enough to kind of make me sitting. Ponda landed behind Chianti. She bumped into Chianti's shoulders, which almost stopped at the mage, and she jumped smugly as the dragons as her talons went any better off the rooftop in a shingle. Past Chianti and crashed to the ground. Somebody helped. Sorry, Chianti grimaced, reaching out with her magic and ordered the rest of the slate styles to stay put. They weren't happy about it, fair considering the dragon's assault, but they held tight to a piece of arena. Said to stay off the roof, Chianti dot the analyst and Griffin bonded till it had to beg dismissively the roof equivalent if they started it. Gone were the days when Potter could fit under the and reach the light and stand shorter than Fisk and her father, which was filling out nicely as the seasons passed. In another half a year she'd be safe to ride, for now she was a sassy teenager surrounded by bad influences. Colin, Pillbug, we talked about this. Gold coin, Pillbug, we talked about this. Chianti called pulling their words with the element of magic that flowed to the dragons, causing them to pause both were deep silver in colour. Like men of the dragons, not the man, but gold coin had a shocking purple eyes and a pair of twisting horns. Its sibling, meanwhile, was smaller, at the dusting of black along the underside of its wings. Chianti waved it and go under the ground with you, like she was shooing a pesky pigeons out of a tree. Gold coin roared, puffing up and spreading its wings in what would be doubtless an imperfect explain a few years, but given that the fearsome girl and then reminding Chianti, of course, this crackling voice it was left was very fierce. Chianti snickered. Raina had created this problem back when the gold coin was small enough to fit inside New Leaf. She turned it a picture of a piece of dragon hoarding gold. It took that persona to heart. Pillbug, meanwhile, lowered his head in submission and meekly hopped off the roof, drifting between their barn and Saucy's house line. In the straight view, startled cries erupted from their patrons, and Chianti listened intently, but their surprise settled to murmurs and amused laughter. Apparently, these dragons were becoming something of a town mascot. Fun by Chianti just meant more eyes to keep them out of mischief. The major redirected her attention to Gold Coin and the perpetual troublemaker she thought Bondo was bad. Now, it's not that if you go hood, there's nothing if you hood good, but if you land Raina may have cookie for you. The Gold Coin had been stoned with interest. Chianti dripped and it glazed, protectively flowing with magic. Try it, I dare you. And it's not about as good for warning wings there. Well-intentioned, she nearly smacked Chianti off the rooftop, and the swell of wind magic shaved her. That was the reason Chianti dealt with the dragons in this situation. Chianti wasn't giving any opportunity for Raina to fall off the roof again. One was quite enough, thank you. The Gold Coin took a great offence to Ponder's screech and released an even louder roll. That one at least got a bit guttural, and Chianti felt the vibration through this late. The babysitting dragon raised its massive head, looking lazily at the commotion, puffed a trail of smoke from its blackened nostrils and sent a bellowing roar across the plains. Gold Coin immediately ducked its head, wings pulled tight to its body, with the sulking off flipped off the roof, gliding down to join its sibling. Ponder puffed like a sparrow in the rain, clearly smug and nipped his Chianti's clothes. I know, you helped. Chianti laughed, pushing kind of on the room. The griffin leapt up and clasped Chianti's arms, gentle talons swinging spreadingly, scarcely prepared to ease Chianti to the ground. First like a young griffin, she had a variance of Fisk's intuitive spirit, although her landings could use a little work. The Dutch hand shook her with its knees, making a buckle and nearly drip. Sasio whistled to her son. Hey, no betting the dragons. Pillbug likes to be betted, Chianti said. To be honest, Pillbug liked most things. It was fascinated with nature statues, the stars, Ponder's odd feathered wings. Children were special objects of interest, and the dragon danced around Sassio's young sung like a straight dog at their lungs. Now poked at her son's clothes, shuffling for anything of what the boy giggled and chucked away. Meanwhile, the Gold Coin and Ponder had engaged in a new debate, albeit one with more courtesy. Fond of glanced beside the dragon, spreading her wings wide and lifted into accomplishment. Gold Coin bumped out his brown wings, too, beating her wingspan but a tiny bit. But the two creatures squinted between themselves, and the Gold Coin rumbled in a dragon chuckle. Ponder nibbled the rags of Gold Coin's chain irritately. Gold Coin hissed, and they were up and playing it's like a dizzying game of chase. Pillbug watched them go and went back to playing with Sassio's son. Sassio meanwhile crossed her arms. I know you've said we're friendly with the dragons, but what if their babies are injured? Yeah, would they blame us? I mean, if somebody hurts them and we didn't intervene, I'd blame us too. That's not company, Chianti. The mage smirked, gesturing for the room beyond Tawny, and the gaming dragon. I won't let anything else you heard after all this. She paused again and widening and get it element because I'm elemental. Yes, you punched a bunch of nose. When did the wedding guests arrive again? No fun. Yeah, the update shared one of the tables that set up outside of New Leaf. It was early spring and still considering Tawny's northern location. The icy melt of the chair leached away warmth. She conjured a fireball dug to her chest. Dion, Bobby, and her partner are arriving with dregs later this afternoon. Ah, yes, the infamous pirates captain and cutthroat crew are roasting it down wider. A downward face was you had experienced many struggles in her life, yet that considering why drugs had made it the trip, but was a bit colder than usual. If you think the pirates and the most dangerous guests at this new pain be paying attention, we're absolutely expecting Delaney to crash the party. Yes, but it's lovely. It's not too late to leave. Chianti's voice off, and if I would put you up and your son in a wealthy or very nice vacation if you wanted. And one meal that went in the end, but she hated the turmoil they were putting the neighbours through now. Sassuo gauged her tone and then she says. She glanced over her shoulder, double-checking if the woman in question was the ship. She lowered her voice away. He's doing his best. He's never worked with a meteoric iron, so it's a bit trickier than expected, but it'll be worth it, though, the wait. There was nothing more revered than a meteoric iron in ship. Leona and Gant, they had to pull off the most of it. They've stopped it. So in faith into the Manx, one of Gane's high priestesses had blessed the metal for forging a gift of the gods, the stone of seeing, and the stars. Raina's weapon was about to be one of a kind. It's just like a, well, I'll be helping Janice bake the sweets for the day. Off, so let me know if you have any requests. As you smiled at the rare thing. I am happy you two decided to host a wedding. I know you were originally hoping for a more intimate affair that almost made Ganthy joke. She discussed what the coffee cup, since you didn't notice well. We wanted to give the Ramadana the deepest strange caught Ganthy's attention, and she's covered her eyes, squinting at the bright blue sky. His griffin was circling nose and cutting his shadow through the ground. He landed lightly and at a distance from Billbug, and says to his son, the baby dragon leapt upright, abandoning the jellyfish, keeping his wings spread for the dragon's inspection. After raising Bond over this ledge, his patience became legendary, and he understood the necessity of staying on good terms with the dragons just in time. Ganthy's the soft feathers of Christian, and he trailed the lion's tail, flicked as he leaned into a touch. Oh, such a good boy. What's the report, bud? Says you was run back to them. Mama, I met a dragon. Is all. Let's get a cup of tea, and you can tell me about it. Says you coral him inside, and you leave it under offering. No, I'm thinking out there. A few of the other patrons said little open for them, as casting surprise glance at them and the cool creatures, so they left the repurposed barn. Fisk, meanwhile, straightened self-importantly and squawked birds of weight anchor, then currently could closer they to Tawny. Drags would have to have an anchored with the Eastern Ocean and walk inland, a process that would take likely most of the day. At least that's what Via Wanland were counting on, considering they'd scheduled one final meeting before the anticipated arrival. Fisk chirped for Liddy's wings and spent Stein glared at the Pillbug. Feather inspection time was clearly over, but Pillbug spread leatherily wings and took off, moving effortlessly through the sky to rejoin Ponder and Gold Coin, who was still circling above Tiny by baby dragon's magic. Maybe subtle enough to keep Ganthy from outright nausea. The creatures not many feelings, still had a stomach for things. She glared out the raid, watching the climb higher for a moment. Her responsibilities for the week faded, and she expected to join them in the skies with the dragons. With the dragon gone, Fisk returned his attention to Ganthy. He couldn't speak to her, and she understood it just fine. She was almost floating Griffin, and now he'd like to think she was also floating Griffin, and now he fluffered his feathers. All good then. Dregs and their crew must be right on time to confirm. Did Dregs just give you a message? Did Dregs give you a Fisk flex? He's telling in the dead to answer. No letters to deliver. Good. You're not a common messenger, Hawk. Ganthy smoothed the feathers from his neck and then pressed his kick. Was thanks for taking time, but to stay close this week. Okay, Fisk bumped his checks fondly and took off again. He spiraled into the goodness of Ponder, and their jittering conversation cut through the cold air. Another moment he left it to the dragons and ankling all that reminded the quiet murmuring of the conversation in the street around them, and the hum of beetles and awakening after the snow. Slowly the birds emerged. Usually they hid from Fisk, but now they hopped along the tree branches in between. After so much chaos, it was nice to have a moment alone again. They stretched her arms above her head and loosening her shoulders and rising to a tiptoes. The midday sun was bright and warm, and even if the air was chilly, the flowers inside the barn were in full bloom, and Raina decorated every table with a tiny clay jar and chose the nesting of flower for each effort to tulip there, but all lovely. Donnie was about to get very, very grateful, but for this singular breath, Ganthy could appreciate the world they lived in. Gratitude surged into his comforting over the sun of the earth, despite everything that came in up bed and smiled across the lips. The wedding would be over. They got a redundant base, assuming that everything went well anyway. Ganthy wanted nothing more. The barn store flying open, and Matilda strolled out. She'd lost the plate of cookies, but seemed to have gained a slightly frazzled air. She asked coffee. Ganthy's going, oh yeah, Raina's working on her days, but he may need help again. Please, she had to get striding back into the entrance. She didn't need you. Raina, if there's a job to do, she'll do it. Matilda flapped her hand in dismay. Have you seen Sigmund and Nerd? Not today. Matilda didn't expand. Instead, striding down the street with purpose. Matilda rarely behaved without purpose, but it still raised suspicions. Ganthy squinted after her and then headed back into the bookshop. Everything was as she expected, blissfully peaceful. Without talons scrabbling on the roof, Raina exited her storage room right as Ganthy reached the serving counter, her lips tilted into a soft smile. How were the dragons? I assume Winston is still in your position. Oh, come on, that was one time. She was sonic the days. That was solidly Ganthy's job relieved. Ganthy glanced back at the barn doors and raised one eyebrow. Why was Matilda acting weird? Raina sighed. Matilda, put me a piece of mail you'll find interesting. We need to leave, but we'll be later. Can you trust me to discuss it with you later? Once we probably have the time. Sure, that's fine. Curiosity pickled her soul, but Raina knew her best. If she felt better to discuss things later, Ganthy could wait. What was more concerning was the pinch touch of Raina's smile. Excellent, we'd better go. Raina was a tendency to prioritise everyone but herself, which meant that it was Ganthy's job to intervene there. The wedding alone would be stressful, but they were tackling some very intense problems this week. Ganthy caught Raina's arms, turning her away from the patrons for a moment of privacy. Hey, you ready for this? It's not too late to back down, dear. I'm afraid the ship has sailed when Drake stayed at brush off. Raina was trying not to think about the true implications of this meeting, of their plan. Look, we've flattened out our lives of what responsibility, now we can do it again. Ganthy offered a wry smile. No matter what, they still had each other, but it was still the improvising something fun over while everything else and the non-rainer kissed her fast and light and began untying her apron as she addressed the patrons, most were minding their own business, others were glancing in their ways, hoping for a pre-wedding drama. Reining up their expression pleasant, offering no hint of the early affairs will be stepping out for a bed, because they will help you if you need anything. A few of the neighbors raised their bikes and called him Rainer, smoothed a lacy shirt and plucked the griffin a down feather out of